Join me right now is UFC featherweight slash lightweight now, Aalon Cruz. What's going on, man?
Nothing much, man. I'm just chilling. How about you?
Good, good. Hey, same thing, same old thing. Now you are returning on March 6th. That's around a year layoff. Did you decide to take that time off, or have you just been having a hard time getting matched up?
Yeah, I just been having a hard time getting matched up. I'm out here in Vegas currently from my normal camp where I'm doing in Florida, and I came out here in July hoping to get a fight, especially being down the street from the Apex. Hoping that I could jump on a card, and nothing really materialized. We got thrown a couple names, here and there, and nothing really came to fruition. And then Sean put me on March 6th, and I found out about this back in December. So I was like, all right. So I went home for like 3 weeks, and then I drove back out here because I was actually renting a car, and I've been out here since then. So I got back here at like January 3rd or 5th, and then I just been here for camp the whole time.
All right, before we jump into the whole move to Vegas, you said you've been out there since July and training all the time, and you're training with all the guys in the UFC and girls, and you
Yep.
watch these fighters go to actually go down the street to compete and then come back. Going through that process over and over again. Was it kind of frustrating for you not being able to fight?
Yeah, it's because like I train hard every day, especially because like when you don't know you have a fight coming up and you're kind of just waiting for something short notice, you're always training hard because you just need to be ready on 2 weeks notice, or whatever pops up. And so it was kind of nice in a way to like get this fight, even though it was like 3 months later, that I knew it was going to happen. It gave me time to like really like prepare, set up my camp, take a break, because I've been training, like I said, at like the red line the whole time. And then, yeah, like you said, I kept seeing fighters, left and right, here getting fights on short notice, and, just getting booked for new fights. Like Kevin Holland fought like 5 times this year, and I couldn't get a fight like one time between July and December. So, it was tough, but, I'm just glad to have a fight, and I'm on the most stacked card of the year so far. So, I can't really complain.
Yeah, yeah. I guess when you wait, sometimes good things happen, and 259 is coming up. You're on it. You've been training in Vegas since the summer, you mentioned. Why did you decide to leave Florida? Is it just the next step, as an athlete that you had to take?
No, it's actually because COVID. So like back home, I live my girlfriend and I live together, and her mom lives with us, and she didn't want her mom to catch COVID from me training at a bunch of different gyms, because this is when like everybody was like in secret lockdown, everybody was like training, on the low and stuff. So she was like, if you're gonna continue training and you plan on fighting, she's like, you're gonna have to like move out, like, if you're gonna want to fight. She's like, you should go to Vegas or something else. And at the same time, it was funny because my agent, Dana Rubenstein, he had texted me and told me basically the same thing. He was saying how like he was like, Florida's pretty much a hotbed for COVID at the moment, which it was. And he was like, I think you have a better chance of getting on a card if you came out to Vegas and stay out here, because you'll be right down the street from the Apex. And this is the time too when like the only people that had popped for COVID leading up to fights were like basically from Florida. So I was like, all right. I was like, I guess my mind's kind of made up. So I got on a plane, I packed up my stuff, and I came out to Vegas. And luckily, Coach Casey, the owner of 10th Planet Vegas, he has like a little casita in his backyard, and that's currently where I am right now. And he's been letting me stay here, and so I have like a whole new family here. He's got his little girls running around. It's interesting, but it's kind of like the typical. I don't want to say typical, but like what you would think of like the fighter life, right? Like you're living in a small room, you just train every day, go home, recover, go train again. Like it's basically what I'm doing right now.
You're almost living a double life, but in a good way.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's an interesting circumstance to be in, but like I said, I can't complain. I'm able to train every day, world class fighters and work with world class coaches. And I miss my team back
Mhm.
home. Obviously, it'd be nice to be able to train with them. But I'll have my main coaches in my corner as well, and then Coach Casey will also be a new addition to my corner.
Great, great. I see that you have that combination of 10th Planet, Extreme Couture, UFC
Yeah,
PI. It's
yeah.
been working for a lot of fighters. We talked about earlier, there's many fighters that you work with that have been competing and doing well. How do you split your time? Is it more at 10th Planet or is it more at Extreme Couture?
I'd say it's more 10th Planet. I only go to Extreme Couture maybe 3 hours out of the week, really. But when I am there, I love, training there with everybody. Coach Eddie Baracco, Eric Nixick, obviously sparring goes down there. Dennis Davis runs the sparring sessions. So, and a lot of the guys, like, that's the different thing that from being out here that I've noticed is like back in Florida, I wouldn't, so like Vegas is more like a buffet. Like there's like a million different places you can train. Uh, there's like a million different mitt men. Like everybody has their own guys that they hit mitts with, and it's kind of like you pick and choose. Like, okay, I want to do my jujitsu here. I'm gonna do my wrestling here, and then there's so many different classes to go for. Whereas in Florida, it's kind of like wherever you're at, like that's kind of your gym, unless you cross train sometimes at some other places. But for the most part, you're kind of with whatever team you're at, and so it's just different. There's pros and cons. Obviously, like if I go to Extreme Couture on a Monday morning for pro practice, there's like 50 people in there, and they're all pro fighters or amateur fighters, Bellator, UFC, ONE FC. So you're not going to get that like one-on-one attention all the time. Whereas like if I'm back home, my team, my striking coach, we only have like 11 guys, so I can talk one-on-one with my head coach all the time. Get mid work with him all the time. Like what I mean. There's no. It's kind of tough, but it's everybody else is working with it, and so you can't really say that like what the formula they have out there isn't working, because clearly it is working. So it's just been I guess a minor adjustment on my part, figuring out where I fit and who fits in my camp specifically.
You just broke it down perfectly where you have to find what fits for you perfectly because you could get lost in the sauce out there. It's a
Oh yeah,
buffet.
yeah, exactly.
Now, like, what are the major changes do you think you've made since your debut to now heading into this fight coming up?
um Man, I don't know if I've made any major changes. I mean, I always train hard and extensively in every martial art that I do. I mean, I love to wrestle, I love to do jiu-jitsu, and I love to strike. I mean, there's nothing that I don't ever like, or I figured, or that I've ever really lacked in training. Some guys say like, oh, I might not wrestle enough, or maybe I don't get enough jiu-jitsu classes or something like that. Whereas I'm the opposite. Like I love to wrestle. But back home I wrestle 2-3 times a week, doing the same thing out here, and I do jujitsu almost every day, which I do back home, and I'm doing striking almost every day. So, nothing in my game has really changed aside from working with different partners, working with different coaches, and you're getting different techniques and styles. Like the jujitsu game out here is different from Florida. Same with the striking. The striking is completely different from Florida, and then the wrestling style is completely different. So I'm just getting more kind of like a taste around the world. Like I'm getting more cultured, I guess, right? To like other people's versions of what they think is successful for MMA, compared to like what we have in Florida with my team and what we do normally to prepare.
Do you think you've had the best sparring sessions of your career in the last 6 months or so?
Um, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I mean, I definitely spar with like some high level guys like Julian Arosa, Dan Ige, Boston Salmon, Emil Mech. I mean, I get like a lot of good work out here. And another big thing that's different too is like we use a lot of small glove work out here. So like we're using puffies instead of like boxing gloves, whereas back in Florida everybody uses big gloves and like less of smaller gloves. So it's just a different style. I mean, like if I'm wearing 16-ounce gloves back home and I'm kickboxing sparring, like you're gonna get it in really hard and you're gonna get some really intense rounds. Whereas out here, you can't really get into like super crazy hard rounds like that with small gloves. Although it does happen too sometimes, but it just hurts a lot more. But I'm also getting like everybody's pretty high level out here. Obviously, like Julian just fought this weekend in Casey,
Yeah.
and if you ever move around Casey, I mean, Casey's dangerous too. Like, she may be a girl, but I mean, she throws hard. She's very aggressive. So I mean, I get good rounds everywhere.
Well, two of your sparring partners or teammates in many ways go out there and just finish their fights. I think Casey, I talked to her. She called it. She said second round,
Yeah.
I'm finishing this fight, and that's what she did.
Yeah, I was talking to her last night after the fight, and she said that she dreamt that exact finish at that time. She said she had that dream 5 times.
Wow.
And I was like, wow. And it came too. And then I guess her and Julian, I guess the way they were roomed, like Julian was like right across from her, like in the hotel room. And I guess they were talking about like how they think their fights were going to be finished or how they think their fights were going to go down. And I think they basically both called it like to the T. So it's interesting, like, when you think about visualization and I guess like just putting that out there in the universe, right? And belief in what you think is going to happen. And then, they made it happen.
Definitely. Well, let's get into your fight versus Uros Medic, 6-0, mostly early finishes. Breaking him down, what kind of fighter do you see?
Man, he's a tough kickboxer, right? But he also has a good ground game or a decent ground game. I've seen a few of his past fights, and if he gets put on his back, he's not like afraid to throw up submissions. I think he finished a triangle choke on one of his guys. But he definitely doesn't like to be on the ground if he doesn't have to be. He's very, he goes very hard to stop the takedown, or if he does get taken out, he tries to get up really hard. He likes to throw hard kicks. He's tall. I mean, I think he's got an inch on me, and he uses his length well. He cuts the distance pretty quickly, and he's training at King's MMA for this camp. I know normally he's from Alaska and he trains up there, but I think the last 2 camps he's been at King's. Yeah, I mean, it's just another. He's an undefeated fighter. He's 6-0, so I'm sure he has that, or I know he has that undefeated aura and bravado. Which I mean, I was undefeated at one time, so I had the same thing. I know what it feels like, and you feel like you're invincible. So I expect a tough fight. I mean, he likes to finish his fights in the first round if he can. I know he doesn't like to go past the second round if it even gets there. And, I'm sure it'll be a high-paced fight, from the bell.
The switch from featherweight to lightweight, was that something that you decided when you signed the contract, like, or before you signed the contract, like, okay, let's do this at lightweight?
Well, yeah. So, it's no secret that my cut to 45 has always been extremely tough. And I think my last weight cut was definitely my toughest cut. Not that it had anything to do with the fight or anything. Spike was definitely just the better person that night. But after that, we were probably on one of the last few cards that was pre-lockdown, and then lockdown happened, and I got a little thick, so I was a little heavy, and I was like, I don't know, 45 is pretty deep, and to be honest, this is when like they were still kind of messing around with like everybody was getting like these short notice fights, right? Due to the COVID. So I was like, well, I told Daniel, I was like, hey, what do you think about trying 55? Like, I'm like, I'm kind of heavy, but I can also be ready on shorter notice if we're doing it at 55. It's gonna be 10 pounds to work with. So he was like, yeah, he's like, I don't think that's a bad idea. He's like, you want to try 55, then we can try it out. And I don't think we thought it would take this long to get a fight at 55, but I guess apparently like a lot of like matchups just didn't match up well. Yeah, I mean, so I guess the biggest thing and the best thing as far as like having more time is my body's had more time to be used to being heavier and put more muscle on and carry this weight around and get used to fighting at a higher weight class. Because some guys like Max Holloway, when he went up to 55 to fight Poirier, he just didn't cut 10 pounds, less. Like he looked like he wasn't really a 55. He looked like he just didn't cut that extra 10 pounds. So I think having that time to really build into like how your body is going to be carrying itself at that higher weight is crucial. And, I feel good. Like I get to eat a little more. I get to lift heavy weights and, push more weight around, not look frail all the time. And there's a lot of good matchups at lightweight. I mean, featherweight's a stacked division, but obviously lightweight's probably one of the most stacked divisions in the UFC too. So there's a lot of good matchups there, down the road.
The stress levels, that must be a key factor throughout this camp, right? Where you don't have to worry about the scale as much, and you don't have to keep checking your weight, and you have the food provided to you, just all this stuff, right? It's just happening for you.
Yeah, man, it was huge because like, being here, obviously the PI is like the biggest resource, any fighter could have. If you live in Vegas and you're not going to the PI, you're making a huge mistake because, I get to eat here, or I get to eat out here every single day, 3 times a day for free. There's snacks, there's protein, free supplements. I'm working with, the physical therapist every single day, getting work done, which back home I couldn't get that, unless I'm paying like a lot of money. I'm doing my strength conditioning at the PI. They have a sports psychologist. I mean, they literally have it all. Like there's nothing in there that if they don't have it, that you shouldn't be able to do what you need to do. And yeah, not having to stress about making 45, because like there definitely were times, especially like my last camp, where I'm just looking at my weight, and even though I'm super lean and the fight's 4 or 3 weeks out, my weight was just high. I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna make 45. Like I tell my girlfriend that all the time. I tell myself, I'm like, I don't know I don't know how I'm gonna make 45. So I don't know where I'm gonna pull it from. I did make it, but it's not fun. And not having to really worry about my weight this entire camp, I just feel like you said, it's just a big relief off my back. It's just one more thing out of my my world and camp and everything I don't have to worry about. I'm also working with Nicole Eli, who does the she works with Trifecta and the PI, and she's a nutritionist. So she's telling me like, when to eat more carbs, when I need to do this, how to rehydrate. Charles and Clint also work with them. And, I think that's a huge thing. Like you shouldn't be worrying about how you're going to make weight. You should be worried about the training and the martial arts, and just preparing for your fighter and getting into the mindset of fighting, not, I need to cut 5 more pounds this week, otherwise I'm not going to make it.
Going back to, you mentioned earlier about visualizing. How do you visualize this fight?
Man, I definitely have had dreams. I don't know if I've had dreams about the finishes yet, but I've definitely had tons of dreams about how the fight's going, different situations. Obviously, you can't win every situation. Sometimes you're losing, sometimes you're winning. To be honest, I don't really know how this fight's going to go, because I feel like it's going to be a wild fight, to be honest, as soon as the bell starts. And right now, like, I'm probably not even, like, really comprehending how crazy the fight might be, because, I know what my game plan is and what I'm trying to do. But once you get in there, things change, or, things get hectic. And, to be honest, it could obviously, if I could walk in there and be out in 10 seconds, or finish a fight like Julian did yesterday and be out and just go home, then that'd be cool. But I'm also ready to go 3 rounds if need be, and make it a war if I have to. So as long as I come out victorious, my hand raised, then that's how I see the fight going.
All right. One last thing before I let you go. Looking back at your UFC debut, and there was a lot of shots to the back of the head. I'm just gonna be real with you. That's what I saw. Yeah. That's what led to the stoppage, right? And when you look at violations in the cage, you got like fence grabs, and I just mentioned the shots to the back of the head, groin shots, eye pokes. Which violation do you think should be like an automatic point deduction without a warning?
I would say, well, man, if you're doing a cage grab and like the person was like actually you were going down and you grab the cage, obviously it should be an instant point. A low blow, I'll give you one, because especially like if we're opposing stances, like one's southpaw, one's ortho, and you're throwing a lot of kicks to the leg, some people step in, you run into the kick. Yeah, but the second time, point taken. Back of the head, it depends on if that person's playing the game, right? Like they're turning the back of the head, and then you throw, and then you hit them. But if it's like something blatant, then, you know, for sure, like, yeah, because like it definitely takes, it doesn't take a lot to, you know, if you ever just bump yourself on the back of the head, like with your own hand, you can see stars. Like it hurts, and it takes a lot out of you. And, you know, it's really hard to recover from that. Obviously, I know. So I definitely say you take a point for that. But, you know, as long as it wasn't intentional. But if it was intentional, then for sure.
Yeah, I noticed sometimes fighters will be grabbing the cage when they have their opponent pressed against the cage, because you know the ref's sitting on one side and you can't really see, but the other guy has the underhook around with their hand on the fence, and then you're like, oh, that's gotta be a point, man. Like sometimes the ref will just be like, hey, let go of the fence, but it's like you're on offense and you're grabbing the fence. That's pretty blatant.
It's kind of a funny thing, because it's like one of those things where, like, you know, like when I wrestled in high school, like your coach is always like, you know, or anybody really, it's just like, oh, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. Where it's like, you know, it's a weird thing to say, right? Where like, I guess because like those type of things, you're not physically hurting them, but you are influencing the fight, how it goes, right? Because I think in the Phil Hawes fight last night against Imavov, Phil, when he had him on the cage, he was grabbing the cage, but the ref was on the left side, so he didn't see it. And it was funny because I was watching the fight with my girlfriend, on speakerphone with my girlfriend, and I was watching, and she was watching back home, and you could hear Imavov's coaches screaming, but they're speaking in French. And I was like, wouldn't it be funny if they're yelling that he's grabbing the cage, but they only speak French, so the ref doesn't know what they're saying?
I think that was the situation, to be honest with you, because
you think so, right?
You know, someone's got to be speaking English in the corner, man. You got to be able to say that.
Someone has to.
yeah, man. Anyways, though, you know, I hope they get that problem like fixed, because I think there's too many problems right now, or errors in refereeing to where it does influence the fight. But anyways, man, March 6th, you're back. Big pay-per-view, 259. Thank you, Aalon, for the time. Good luck on the fight, man, and hope all these adjustments you make, you know, come to fruition in your next fight.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Take a move in the ring. You can hit me with a word.